Ever since the debate around global warming started to take shape, the original perpetrators have tried hard to skirt their responsibilities. And then there are countries like India which are doing way more than their due share to improve the world. But there is a concept called justice. It requires guilty to pay for the sins. The same now applies to Western countries. Hi and welcome to TFI English, the national socio-political analysis arm of the TFI Media Group. I'm your host Piyush, and if you haven't subscribed to TFI English channel yet, hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon to receive all the latest updates. Coming back to the story, in this video I'm here to tell you why Bonn Climate Conference 2022 became another stage for India's diplomatic showdown. For the last few years, the debate around accountability for climate change looked settled for all intent and purpose. But the problem with Western nations is that they are still living in colonial hangover. But India is still sitting on the fence to bring them back on track. At the Bonn Climate Conference, India directly asked them to compensate for their misdeeds. During the closing plenary of Bonn Climate Conference, India was the only major country actively fighting for developing nations. Modi government categorically told the conference that there should be parity in carbon budgeting. Apparently, developed nations are backing down from their promise of paying fines to the tunes of 7.8 lakh crore rupees to the developing world. Richa Sharma, India's lead negotiator, took the stage to appraise the willingly uninformed countries about their responsibilities. We are disappointed that the conclusions are unable to note the most significant advances of the three working group reports of the IPCC that have provided through the concept of global carbon budgets our foundational view of past, present and future responsibility. Fair access to the global carbon budget is therefore justifiably the basis for the operationalization of equity. She also explained how scientific literatures providing for solution of global warming are inherently biased against developing countries. Richa added, we have many scenarios and mitigation pathways in scientific literature, but most of them are not based on equity nor other regional assumptions explained. There is much work to do. This has been long-standing demand posed by India and other co-developing nations. If there is one geographical bloc which can be held for being 100% responsible for climate crisis, then it is Global West. The region has force-fed its own industrial revolution to countries all around the world. Interestingly, before the Western countries visited the shores of Asia and Africa, the continents were prosperous in their own ways. Their development model did not teach them to hate environment. But the model which West forced upon them led to drastic change. Countries could not adapt to change and hence their indigenous population was sent into generations of poverty trap. On the other hand, the West started to work on increasing its energy consumptions. When its own market started to saturate, these countries asked the developing nations to produce more carbon dioxide only to the extent that they could become obedient consumers of Western products. But when the developing countries started to industrialize, West came up with global warming narrative and asked them to post their developmental programs. But the narrative boomeranged on them. Soon the people realized that the perpetrators of the crime are posing as innocents. Scientific literatures also put blame squarely on Western countries. Climate conferences fixed their monetary liabilities, but the Western countries kept refusing to pay them while at the same time lecturing countries like India. These countries need to realize that they are not living in the 18th century. If they do not accept the truth, they will be ostracized on the global stage and none other than India will take the initiative.